Good evening and welcome. This is Simply Frank, and I'm Frank. Welcome. This is the second edition of our new series. Last week we featured the Attorney General, and thank you very much for all the good things you said about the show. The movement for national renewal that was formed last October with the major aim of registering 1 million people has achieved that target and has now transformed itself into a political party. My guest on Simply Frank, John Sangwa, State Council, founder of MNR. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
Last 3, 4, 5 days since you hit the target, what has been the response like? And how did you feel anyway?
Well, initially, most people are very skeptical about our ability to reach the 1 million. And having reached that million, which we did, by the way, by the 3rd of March, I think we've gone through a process of great excitement because it's something that has never been done before.
Yeah.
And one of my friends said, this idea you have come up with is only applicable in America and European countries, but not in Zambia.
Yeah.
Then you look back to say, okay, are you saying that Zambians are just destined to experience mediocrity and that all the good things are meant for European countries?
Yeah.
So having achieved that, it was quite exciting in the sense that most people did not believe that we would. I appeared on one of the programs with a man of God who said, that is a tall order. It can't be achieved. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I look at things differently.
Yeah.
And I said this was something that was indeed achievable. Yeah, so we took a couple of 1 or 2 days just to
let it sink in.
That's right, to just understand the implication of what we had achieved, which was a product of collective effort.
Yeah.
And then having achieved that, the issues now we've been saying is that, okay, what next?
Yeah.
That's what we have now been exploring.
We will revisit, that.
Yes.
You have managed to achieve, what people thought was a tall order. One issue, that's vexing, for lack of a better way of putting it, is the failure, for most, governments to achieve parity in terms of gender, parity. We just, celebrated International Women's, Day. Where is the problem? Is it the environment is not right? Is it the people? Is it the women themselves?
No. I mean, certain inequalities and imbalances in society cannot be addressed on their own. There has to be a deliberate and conscious effort to be able to promote women. I mean, it's even there, by the way, I always love to go back to the Constitution.
Yeah.
I think somebody told me to say, well, if the Constitution, the word Constitution doesn't come out of this man's mouth, then I'll be very shocked.
Yeah.
But it's just natural because we don't live in a vacuum. The Constitution is the foundation of who we are. It's like being in a church. You can't say we're in a church and you don't talk about the Bible.
Yeah.
Okay, because the foundation of our Christian faith. And similarly, the Constitution is the foundation of who we are. And every discourse has to lead back to that because it provides for the foundation of everything as to who we are. Now, the Constitution is very clear. It even allows, for example, for the government to be able to discriminate. And I think there's a concept known as affirmative action, where you see that a certain class of people have been marginalized. Government is entitled to take deliberate and conscious decision, which have to be embodied in a policy to make sure that that imbalance is corrected. Now, the fact that women are still lagging behind in many sectors, but by the way, some women take offense to say we're not saying we have to be promoted anyhow. But we do acknowledge that this environment, women are often marginalized. So there has to be a deliberate and conscious decision, not just lip service. What we are good at in this country is lip service. We talk about it every year. We talk about on Women's Day about how women are great, how women constitute the majority of the people. But when you look at it, generally the women actually are receiving the in a worse off position than the men. So what is required is a deliberate and conscious decision to be able to address the grievances that women have. This is something that can't happen on its own. It has to be directed. It's not just the women. We pay lip service about including the youth. Now, that too is something that has to be addressed. Now, when you look at the Constitution actually encourages. That's why there was this issue of saying there has to be a certain percentage of women seats in the National Assembly allocated to women, to the youth, and to the disabled. That's not enough. Even political parties themselves must go further and agree that amongst the candidates that they'll sponsor, for example, there will be 226, I think, constituencies where there will be elections. Nothing stops a political party to say 50% will go to the men, will be reserved for the men. Maybe 25 or 30% of the seats will be allocated to women and 20% to the youth. Nothing stops them from doing that. So there has to be these deliberate, conscious decision so that we move away from simply talking, but we take deliberate and conscious steps to address those challenges.
Let me take you back in short memory lane. October last year, you set out with MNR. What are you renewing? Movement for National Renewal.
Yes.
What are you renewing?
Yes. I think that the name came from after a long period of reflection. I took the liberty of looking at where the country was in 1964 and to where it is now. By most metrics, we are far worse off than we were at independence in 1964. So which means that from 1964 to date, the country has been in decline. So which means we can't continue to do the same thing and hoping that the outcome will be different. So what is the answer? We are not saying we have to dismantle or to create instability in what we have. What we are talking about is that we have to renew all these institutions of government so that we stop the decline and start to push the country upwards. That is the rationale behind it. It's not about destroying what is already there, but strength, because you have to understand, why have we ended up where we are? When we got independence in 1964, we had very strong institutions of government. Okay, but what we have seen over the years, those institutions have been weakened. And currently, we're in a worse off situation than we have ever been in the history of this country. In fact, institutions of government that were working under the one-party state were far much stronger than the institutions that we currently have. So that is why we are saying, we are not saying we destroy the institutions as they exist, but we renew them to try, because we have a challenge. We are below the independence period, right? Other countries did not go below, but they took the position they were at independence and moved upwards. What we have done is that we have instead gone down. So we need to renew, to go back to the levels we were at independence before we can begin to pick up. Hence the reasoning behind the name Movement for National Renewal.
Tell me, almost all governments, perhaps except Kaunda, who picked almost all the disciplines and did, fairly well. Over the years, governments have failed in most governance issues. Where is the problem? Is it like a monkey, that wants to deal with so many so many things instead of specifically looking at one or two issues. What am I talking about? I am saying when you're in government, you look at your priority and say, look, this first year, I'm going to deal specifically with social economy. The next year, I am going to deal with health because governance, is continuity. Okay, you can't be successful in everything. Is that where the problem is?
Well, first of all, the mess we are in as a country cannot be attributed to one government. All the governments from 1964 are responsible for where we are. In fact, perhaps the most blame would actually go to the Countess government, because when we inherited the institutions of government, now remember they were built over, we're starting from 1899 to 1964. We're talking about institutions of government that were built over nearly 65 years. Now, what did we do? The institutions were being built that at some point this would be an independent republic of Zambia. We inherited that. And one of the things, if you look at the data then applicable, you find that Zambia at the time was the third richest country in terms of per capita income. We had beaten other countries in Africa. But certain policies were introduced, which led to the decline. First of all, the first mistake I think we made was in 1969. We started dismantling our constitutional order. That is when the 1969, we held a referendum to be able to remove the requirement for a referendum. So it was a referendum to end all referenda, meaning that from that date, no referendum will ever be held. Meaning that the government was going to be at liberty to change the constitution as it pleased. That was the beginning of our problems. 1969, obviously, it also led to the destruction of the Barossa Agreement and so forth. From 69 to 1972, within a period of 3 years, we were in a one-party state. Now, what is the implication of a one-party state? It meant that all institutions of government became subservient to the party. The party was now supreme. I think if you recall, that was the acronym which we are using to say the PIG, the party and its government. So the institutions of government, the party basically became supreme. So the party made all the policies. I think if you remember, we are all forced to become members of UNIP. Okay, and then we're even required to have a card for you to get on UBZ to even enter the market. Now, this was the beginning of the destruction of our country. And obviously, various arguments were advanced to justify the introduction of one-party state. And then 1972, it is changed. 1973, we have a new constitution. That system lasted, I think, for 17 years. By the end of 1991, this country was on its knees. You remember that. And by that 1990, 1991, Zambia's external debt was well in excess of $7 billion. IMF, World Bank had lent more money to Zambia than any other African country in sub-Saharan Africa. We emerged from being the top 3 richest countries in Africa in 1964, we ended up being the least developed, worst indebted country in the world. Okay? This is where the most damage was done. Most damage was done during this particular period. Okay? So when the MMD came into power, it was basically in an attempt to restore what we had damaged. Now, obviously, if you recall, we went through a period of structural adjustment program. I think Chilwa used to say, sup in the morning, sup in the evening, sup for lunch, sup for breakfast, meaning structural adjustment program. We persevered through that. By 2006 and 7, we didn't pay the $7 billion.
Yeah.
It was forgiven. So by 2011, the country was literally debt-free. Now, between 2011 to 2021, we're back in a debt position. We're sitting on nearly $13-14 billion in debt.
Yeah.
Now, the complication with this debt is that part of it is most of it is commercial debt. So really, the damage we're in has been caused by successive governments.
Yeah.
And I always say that the successful government over the last 60 years is the one that has done the least damage to the country.
Yeah.
Literally every government has been responsible for the destruction of this country. So it's cumulative.
Right. All right. Let's talk about, before we go back, to the numbers, they said the numbers don't lie. This government is saying it has achieved, to debt restructure. Subsequently, economic growth of about 5%. Okay, I know you're laughing. How come these numbers are not being translated into better living standards? Let me talk about where I come from, the Cop Belt. Almost every single town is run down. Is it because of the accumulated, debt? Why, we're not benefiting from this economic growth?
Okay. I mean, it is those factors that prompted me to leave my practice.
Yeah.
To start the movement for national renewal. I grew up in Mufulira, and I was recently in Mufulira. If you go to most of those towns on the Copper Belt, they look like war zones.
Absolutely.
Okay, because you can't understand how is it possible that towns can break down to this level and yet people are still there. You can explain it. You can explain it if I thought there is a war, and then people go in the bush, and then they come back and they find that all the towns are run down. But this is a country that has experienced peace and stability since 1964.
Yeah.
How do we explain the scale of destruction and the levels of poverty that exist? Okay. Now, Mufulira, for example, people will tell you this is where the purest copper is mined.
Yeah.
Okay. And yet it is one of the poorest towns on the Copper Belt. In fact, there's been no meaningful development in Mufulira. I mean, I was there, you'd actually cry. You'd actually cry. It was even far worse than the way I left the town in 1984, 85. It's far worse. Now, this is what has prompted me to say, wait a minute, let me find out what is so wrong. Why is it that there is no improvement? Okay, yeah, you can sit, go to court, argue, and all these cases, they make good reading. But how do they translate on the ground? You can criticize, but criticism doesn't do anything. And that is what prompted me to say, okay, let me get involved in this particular process. By coming to the question that you have posed, there are a number of factors. You see, one of the principles that the movement believes in is that the starting point is for us to be able to say, one of the fundamental principles we are saying is that Zambians need to take a deliberate and conscious decision to understand the scale and the magnitude of the problems we have. Because what you're talking about, which is what is being thrown around, those are just figures.
Yeah.
They don't mean anything. Look at how people are living in real terms. In Mufulira, I was being told people live off mangoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, these are the issues that should trouble each and every Zambian. Whether your life is better or it's not better. In fact, for those whose lives are better, should be concerned about the poor in our societies. Now, again, to throw in another dimension, this is a country that has literally everything you can think of. A country with so much and yet so poor.
Yeah.
That is a serious contradiction. And the question is, what is the root cause of these problems? It is basically governance. Governance is simply bad.
Yeah.
And that is why we are talking about renewal. Renewal means restoring institutions, Now, remember, we have a constitutional framework. What is in the law and what is happening on the ground are two totally different issues. We are emphasizing that the starting point to restoring Zambia is to be able to respect the constitution. Secondly, we must have rule of law. Okay? Now, when there is rule of law, Ambassador, it's very difficult to steal. When you have other controls, you can easily contain corruption. But once there's no rule of law, which is the case in Zambia, there's no rule of law. There is no respect for the constitution. Just on your program, somebody asked me about the Attorney General saying next year they'll embark on the amendment on some constitutional reform. You don't need constitutional reform in Zambia. You don't. What you need is to address the issue of bread and butter. Unless somebody can show that the constitution is preventing development, I'll go along with that. But there is no evidence that the constitution as it stands hinders development in Zambia. There is no evidence. In fact, the root cause of our underdevelopment is lack of respect for the constitution. So those are numbers, but the root cause of the challenges that we have is theft, mismanagement, and corruption. So we have to find a way to address these issues, and that is what we talk about. We need to renew the institutions of government so that they begin to operate as they were intended, have all the controls in place, meaning you need to have a robust judiciary that will be able to keep the executive in check. You also need a robust National Assembly which will exercise oversight over the executive branch of government. Unfortunately, we have a National Assembly which is basically a rubber stamp. Whatever the executive says goes. You also have a judiciary that is too weak, extremely weak. I've never, in my 35 years of practice, I've never seen the judiciary in such a weak state. So these are the challenges, and that's why we're talking about to say this is a movement of national renewal. We need to restore these institutions so that they can work the way they were intended. Short of that, the decline will continue.
You've reached 1 million people now. The problem with Zambians is they're very skeptical. Belief, and I'm going to ask you a lot in a question. How can you tell the people that these numbers are real? That's part of the equation. The other side of the equation is from this, the next stage is registration of the movement as a political, party. What assurance can you give the members that you're going to complete the registration? Why do I say this? Look at what is happening to PF. It's being killed, not perhaps by the UPND, but perhaps the agencies of the of the government.
First of all, let me come to the issue of yes, people are normally skeptical. The reason is that Zambians, we don't take risks, right? No country can be developed without taking some element of risks. And we were quite open about it. The reason we asked for a 1 million people is the recognition that no one person can transform Zambia. Therefore, whereas if I may go back, the whole notion, this whole process was actuated by the fact that some people within Zambia, some friends, and others in the diaspora are saying, well, you've been very vocal, you've been very critical of government. Why don't you think of offering yourself for public office? And I said, well, actually, every Zambian has a duty to be of service to his country. And I said, well, I'm willing, but I can't do it alone. Okay? I need to join forces because running government is complex. Okay, it's perhaps the toughest job on earth. So you cannot pretend that you know everything. You don't. You need the support of each and every person. You bring your expertise, another one brings his expertise, another one brings, you combine. Zambia is not short of expertise. And that is why we said, okay, fine. what will be the proof of the fact that, and first of all, we have those 10 points, which we're able to say, these are the things that must be done to renew Zambia, those 10 points. Do the people accept these 10 points? Now, we needed proof of that. So we said, okay, if people accept these points, we don't just want your word.
Yeah.
Can you sign? Can you go to the website and register your support for the movement and the fact that you understand these 10 points? That is how the process started. Now, as usual, you get people say, yes, I'm with you. And I say, no, that's not good enough. Can we have the number there?
Yeah.
Now, by the end of December, we had a goal of achieving this by 31st December. We didn't. Then we had to do a postmortem. Why is it that we didn't reach that number? Was it because people were not interested, or we didn't sell the message enough? We discovered that we didn't sell the message good enough. The platform was not effective. There were other challenges. We concluded that whatever number we got, which was less than 10% of our target, did not really reflect our achievement. We said, okay, fine. So we made a decision. We knew that this issue of authenticity of the numbers was going to come up.
Yeah.
So what we did was, the second phase, we put a counter there.
Yeah.
Each time you register, your number goes up.
Right.
Each time you register, people could see real time what was going on. Now, I remember having a conversation with one of my friends, said, you know what? Why don't you just go and tell the people end of December that you have the 1 million?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'll be manufacturing popularity.
Yeah.
I said, I can't do that because one of the principles of the MNR is being truthful. And I said, let me be truthful, and let us be truthful and say we didn't reach the target.
Yeah.
So now there was a counter which counted up to those. I mean, there were people who became literally like drug addicts who were watching the counter in the morning when they wake up and in the evening before they went to sleep, just to know the number of people that have been registered. So we achieved that, yes. Now, the point to remember is that, Ambassador, that 1 million was for our own comfort.
Right.
People will always question these things, but we did it for our own comfort to understand that we're not alone in this struggle. So we achieved that, and we're quite elated to having achieved that goal. The next question is, we now have a pool of people that believe in the movement.
Yeah.
So our job going forward is now to consolidate on that. And here is the point. From the 1 million, we are now trying to get people. We have issued a call out, an advert to say, are you interested being part of the leadership of the movement in your province, in your district, and at your ward level? We are asking people now to come forward. That is one. We also understand that there were other people on the fence.
Yeah.
Okay, the door is still open to them. They can come in, but they have to register first. Secondly, we are now saying those that are interested in standing on the MNR ticket as councillors, mayor or council chairperson, and members of parliament, we are saying that the starting point is that we are looking at tapping into the 1 million. That's the pool we would like to tap in. And in addition to that, we are saying those who may not have registered, you are still at liberty to come. And we are tapping from that pool as well. Here's the interesting thing. I have talked about the fact that institutions have collapsed. One of the things that we are asking people that would like to stand on the movement ticket is that they have to undergo a constitutional literacy test, assessment. How well do you understand the Constitution? Because it's a mandatory requirement under the Constitution. Article 43 says every Zambian has a duty to acquire a reasonable knowledge of the Constitution. It's a constitutional obligation. Why? Because the entire process of governance is a two-way process. You don't vote and go to sleep. No, you vote and get engaged with the people you have voted for to make sure that they do the right thing. And that is why you are required to have the Constitution.
Let me ask.
On the issue that you have raised how sure are we that we're going to get the registration? Now, Ambassador, I can't talk about other people's experiences. Okay? I don't believe that governance has to be about confrontation. We don't believe that. What I can confirm is that from October to date, we've been able to operate peacefully. There's been no interference in terms of the activities we have mounted. We've been free to go around the country. Why? Because first of all, I'm a lawyer. I have to make sure that I obey the law. I cannot be in the forefront of breaking the law. And even when all events we have had to notify the police. We don't believe that you solve anything through confrontation. No. So having said that, given the way we have operated from October to date, we have no reason to believe that when we submit our papers for registration, we're going to have problems. Let me just end up by saying that it takes maximum 2 days to form a company in Zambia. Okay? I don't think there is any reason why it should take longer to incorporate to register a political party.
We'll be watching.
Thank you. Yes, I mean that's basically the objective. So it would be too premature for me to say they'll be blocked. But what I can say is that if we'll encounter any challenges, administrative and otherwise, we'll work together with the Registrar of Societies office to make sure that all these things are smoothened, we are registered and ready to take part in the election.
Because of the time factor, I'm going to load the next question, maybe 3 into 1.
Yes, please.
1, how sure are you that the 1 million and the 1 million in a plus are going to be translated into votes? Okay. 2, going with 1 million or even beyond, if they vote, you will be a party to reckon with. And I don't want people to misunderstand me, that I'm siding with you. And this is the truth. I'm talking about the numbers. You get 1 million plus. You could actually be sitting on the edge of governance or presidency, whatever you want to call it. That's the second part of that. You're very keen on quality leadership. Is this why you don't want to join an alliance with other political, parties? And then is it partly also the reason that you're now having lots of numbers? You don't need nobody. These are loaded questions.
Can I answer them quickly?
Yes, please.
The first one is that yes, of the million that we have, a good proportion of them, we have their contact details. And we are trying to make sure that that support for the movement will translate into vote. This is an ongoing exercise, but at least we have a pool to work from. Okay. The second point you have raised is that, yes, I mean, Ambassador, I'm a lawyer. I don't go to court. When I was practicing, I always did my homework. I made sure that before I go to court, my facts are correct, my evidence is correct, and the law is on my side. Now, that same reasoning had to be applied in this political arena. I couldn't just see ourselves just waking up one moment and say we're forming a political party. No. I mean, that's being arrogant. Okay, I'm not that arrogant. We needed to establish that, in fact, what we are selling is acceptable to the people. And the test of that came in from the 1 million. Fortunately, we got that number. And let me also say this. If at all we had not obtained that 1 million, I would have been perfect at liberty to walk away. That would have been the end of the exercise. And that would have meant that people don't like my ideas, our ideas. And that's the nature of democracy. So in a democracy, you don't always have your way. You should also accept that there can be a negative outcome. But fortunately, we got a positive outcome. Coming to alliances, I've said this before. One of the challenges we face in Zambia is that there is no law governing alliances. So we cannot operate outside the law. There is no law governing alliances. Now, we should have had the law in 2017 if the PF government had passed the Political Parties Act. Under that act, there is an express provision for you to create alliances. That is why whichever alliance is cooked up, what happens? Before the ink has dried, people have violated it. Okay? Now, yes, even in the absence of the law,
Yeah.
you can have a gentleman's agreement, but this has to be amongst people with shared values and shared principles.
Yeah.
They don't work because the glue that makes alliances hold does not exist.
Yeah.
Now, are we opposed to working with other political parties? The answer is no, we are not. But that kind of arrangement has to be founded on shared values, shared principles. And for us, the overriding objective is the country.
Yeah.
If there are political parties out there that are prepared to say, guys, we're going to put the country first, we'll embrace such political parties.
Tommy, it's very critical to have youths, in governance.
Yes.
Here at BMTV, we got a number of youths, because we feel youths are the today.
Yes.
Not just the future.
Yes.
Are the today and the future.
Yes.
In most cases, youths are the ones who are promised heaven, and they're the first to be left behind.
That's right.
I see now youths have been promised internship, in every ministry. You're laughing again. Isn't this a good thing? But
Ambassador, let's see how it's going. You see, first of all, that's not the way policies are formulated. You don't just wake up one morning and formulate. First of all, you have not even consulted the youth.
Yeah.
You haven't consulted them. They need to be consulted. Now, this is a point I was making on another platform, is that, you see, and that's the issue that we're talking about, whether we have a manifesto, what our manifesto, and we are saying that we are working on what we're calling People's Manifesto.
Yeah.
That manifesto is premised on the fact that we will not dictate, we will listen.
Yeah.
We will listen from the people. Now, you can't just make a broad statement to say, oh, we'll provide internship to youth.
Yeah.
Now, you have youth in rural areas and youth in urban areas.
Yeah.
Are the needs and challenges the same? They're obviously different. How are you going to take care of them? Okay, but you need to talk to them first. You can't just wake up one morning and say, oh, we'll give you internship. But is that what the youth have told you? To say we want internship? You haven't spoken to them. Okay, and this is the problem. And People's Manifesto requires us in the leadership to listen, because the people are quite smart. They understand the challenges that they're experiencing, they have, and they know solutions to their problems. So the best approach is to listen to them. Coming to accommodation of the youth, I'll tell you, the movement of national renewal, the bulk of the people that I'm working with are people that are possibly, I think, half my age.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we have to provide for transition in leadership. Now, what am I doing? I'm also mentoring them. Okay? I have the benefit of having lived life, of having a long knowledge, a deep history of this country, which I constantly share with them to be able to make them understand where Zambia has come from. So there has to be deliberate and not just lip service about the engagement of youth. In fact, when does the discussion about youth come about? During election. Yeah, and after election, they are forgotten. Now, what is required, we are saying in People's Manifesto, we have to have provision for the youth in practical terms, not just theoretically.
Right. I was going to ask you, what are you promising, this country, but this has been, done before, and we can go on and promise heaven.
That's right.
I want to summarize the key pillars.
Yes.
Of
it's very simple. Again, because Zambia, you can't do these things in a vacuum. In one of my experience when I went to Western Province, I felt like I'm going to step into muddied water, because one of the Indunas I was talking to said to me, you know what? Every political party that has come here have promised this. The moment we support them, they change. Now, the challenge was, how do you convince them that you're different? It was hard, and it's one of those moments we say, well, you know what? I wish I could take this Induna, put him in the position of God, and give him a chance to read my heart, But again, that's not humanly possible. But the bottom line is this: we have a different kind of approach. Even when we finally went to Western Province, they asked us the same thing. We said, what are you going to do for us? We said, nothing. What do you mean nothing? I said, no. He says, we are from Lusaka. We don't live in Western Province.
Right.
But you in Western Province, you know what your challenges are.
So you tell us.
You tell us, and we'll work with you. Okay? We're not there to give you promises because everybody else has made those kind of promises. And obviously, the usual topic, the issue of the Barroso Agreement came up.
Yeah.
And they said, well, your other colleague who came gave us a promise that you will do ABCD once elected. What do you say? So, well, I'm not making such promise. But what I do acknowledge is that the Barroso Agreement is a real and genuine issue. What we can only promise is to have dialogue and find a workable solution for both parties. That is all. So the idea of a People's Manifesto, or what we are saying is that for once, can we hear from you? In the last 6 years, it's always been the politicians in Lusaka telling people in Kaputa, this is what we'll do for you. And that has never worked. So for once, can we turn things around? Let's hear from them. And not only that, when we say we're going to do this, the people in these areas cannot be there as bystanders. They have to be responsible for implementing whatever solutions that they formulated.
Right.
By the way, they are quite smart because they haven't died, so which means that there's something that they're doing right. I keep giving this example. I don't know how much time we have. In Western Province, I was asked, in my engagement with one of the Indunas, I said, listen, can you tell me one thing that you think should be done to transform Western Province? And one of the Indunas said, well, if only we can develop the cattle industry, that will solve a number of problems for Western Province. Now, I didn't know this. So they know the solution to their problem. First of all, they know the problem, and they know the solution to the problem. Now, the same way, what may be a solution in Western Province is not a solution for Luapula. It's not a solution for Northern Province. It's not a solution for Muchinga. We have 10 provinces. Each one of these provinces has its own challenges. So the People's Manifesto is about identifying what the challenges are, because you can't come up with a generic manifesto. No, it's to come up with something that is targeted. And once you come up with a People's Manifesto, it's not full of promises. It contains commitments. This is the problem. This is the solution. We're going to implement this. Yes, that's a distinction. If you ask me what we're going to do for the people, that's all what we'll do. We will work together with each and every province to make sure that their challenges are addressed. And they have to get involved.
Money is very critical. In whatever you do. But at the same time, money can be the root cause of a number of challenges, a number of problems. I have a lot of colleagues in this government, in previous governments, who do extremely well, after the elections, and I'll ask them, why are we not doing as well as you're doing? They tell me they just finance the government. We're the priority. We have to get what we planted. What is the situation in your case?
That's part of the renewal. Part of the renewal means you can't continue doing the same thing. And in our case, we are asking the Zambians to say, you know what? You want the government to work for you or to work with you. You must finance that government. You must finance that political party. Because if you don't, it gets financed by foreign interest. That government will work for foreign interest. If that government is financed by big businesses, it will come and work for those big businesses. And we are saying we will not get any foreign funding. That I've said this, would rather lose the election than to get money from foreign interest. Two, would rather lose an election than to get money from big businesses. Our goal is to get money from Zambians. We believe we have the capacity. Renewal starts with us believing in ourselves that we can make a difference. Now, funding, we're asking anybody, 5 kwacha, 10 kwacha, 15 kwacha, 20 kwacha, 1,000 kwacha, but we have set a limit. You can't give us more than 20,000 in a month. We have set a limit because we don't want anybody to come up to say, I'm the biggest funder. No. Every person, whether you put in a 5 kwacha, you have a stake, just as the same as anyone else who has put in 20,000. Now, when we do that, this is what Zambians need to understand. You will own that government because you have funded it. Okay? You'll be able to keep that government accountable. And that government will work for you. Okay? And that's basically our plan. And I can easily state here, if Zambians don't fund us, then we're not going anywhere. But we will not repeat the mistakes of the past. We will not do what other political parties have done. Okay? It's just as simple as that. We don't get funding from the Zambians. We'll respect that choice to say, Zambians, you know, when we don't get funded by Zambians, it means Zambians are happy with the status quo. And that becomes, we respect that choice for Zambians. But out of principle, we will not get money from big businesses. We will not get foreign funding. We will not. This is a Zambian enterprise. It has to be owned by Zambians, and it ought to be financed by Zambians. Let me also amplify. When we talk about funding, it's not just about money. You might say, well, I don't have money. Ask yourself, what can I do for the movement? What can I do to spread the word for the movement? You can campaign. You can convince your neighbors. What does it cost to persuade your neighbor to join the movement? It doesn't cost you anything. So it's about saying, such as you have, bring to the movement. Okay? You have money, bring in money. You have 5 kwacha, bring that 5 kwacha. Before the end of the week, we'll be able to set up a platform. It can be money, mobile money, it can be a direct transfer into a bank account. People should be able to feel free so that at the end of the day, they own this government. Let me just amplify another point, Ambassador, if you may allow me. From October to date, we've never received a single ngwe from any Zambian. All this process has been funded purely on a voluntary basis. Okay? This is the time we're now saying, we're now transitioning to a political party. We're now ready to receive your money.
Right.
Yes. But we have now put also structures in place to make sure that we account for each and every ngwe that comes in. On a weekly basis, we'll provide a report how much money has come in, you know. And I know people will say, well, it's not possible because the majority of Zambians are poor. That may be so. Individually, we may be poor, but collectively, we can make a difference. And like I said, renewal begins with us believing in ourselves.
Right. Let me tell you about what I'm going to say next. You know, this question is very critical.
Yes.
And it also speaks to me.
Yes.
You know, having been in the media for 55 years, you know, where I'm coming from, the background, we try to be objective. Okay? Things have changed. Almost everybody now loves money. Even media, you know, people. Here, I'm using my experience. I'm using my ethics, you know, together with my colleagues at BMTV, that our role is to be fair, is to balance our role, is to disseminate information to make it easy for people to make an informed decision.
That's right.
This not this may not be the case with the other people in the media. People now, media is aligning itself to certain political, parties. Yours is critical. It's still young. You want to be heard. What are your expectations, from the media?
Well, first of all, what you're talking about is something that is, which is very shocking. By the way, I think if I'd not gone into law, I'd have graduated in mass communication.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that I did, but I abandoned that and went into law school. And my understanding and interaction with the media, I've always looked at the media as being very ethical. Now, through the work of the movement, I was shocked when I said, well, if you are inviting the media, you have to pay them.
Yeah, it's that bad.
I said, how? How? No, you have to arrange for their transport to come and go back. I said, but I'm giving you content. Why should I pay you? I said, well, that's the practice. If you don't pay, they won't come. Now, that was my first shock. And that undermines the integrity of the media. But it's not surprising, Ambassador. Everything in this country is broken, including the media. So when we're talking about renewal, it's not just renewing government institutions, but also renewing the media as well. So that the media, the moment you get money from somebody, that undermines your objectivity. Okay? So we need to restore that integrity, not only in government, but also in the media as well. We have a long road ahead, but I think the starting point is to acknowledge that there is such a problem in the media.
Right.
One of my colleagues told me to say, you know what, that media is friendly to me. I was actually told that each political party, each one of the existing political parties, they have their own friendly media.
Sure.
And I just got so shocked. And I said, this is not something that I knew. I thought that the media institutions have fidelity and commitment to the truth and the truth alone, that any element of bias has to be removed. But unfortunately, that element of bias is actually celebrated and normalized.
Yeah, we got 3 minutes, I think, 4 minutes for one question into two, and then we'll summarize at the end. What kind of renewal do you expect from the Electoral Commission of Zambia? That's critical to ensure a free and fair election. And then after that, your message. 3 minutes.
Yeah. There are already a lot of complaints that have been made about the Electoral Commission. One of them is this ongoing exercise to do with delimitation. And my fear is that it will be a mess, because this is a huge and serious undertaking, and there is no way it can be undertaken within the limited period. And my view is that it should not have been introduced in the first place, but we are where we are. My plea simply is that the Constitution declares the Electoral Commission to be an independent body. And all what they have to do is simply be independent, do your job, and do not be dismissive about what people complain about. Even if the complaints are trivial, at least take time to explain. Don't just dismiss them. That is what would be my plea to the Electoral Commission. My general message is to my friends, my people that are educated, that have been privileged, people that possibly constitute the 1% of this country. And I know that they spend most of their time sharing all these messages on WhatsApp and Facebook and so forth. My plea to you is that it doesn't matter how many posts you make on Facebook or WhatsApp messages you generate. They will not move an inch in terms of what is going on in this country. What we need to do is to get involved directly in the governance of this country. That is very critical. We can talk all you want, but those ideas, if they're not accepted in the mainstream, they don't find political expression those ideas will not go anywhere. And it is important. I'm calling upon all those professionals.
Yeah.
No country can be developed without involving their best brains in the political process.
Yeah.
2 examples. The people that fought for independence in 1964, beginning 1959 to beginning 1959 to 64, those are the best brains we had at independence. Those are the people who made sacrifices. Come to 1991, the people that were responsible for the creation of MMD were the best brains at that time. And similarly, I'm urging all those people that have been privileged to receive free education like me, it is time to give back to this country by getting involved in the political process, because otherwise this country is not going anywhere.
A critical question, State Council, the strategy that you're going to use in participating in this election. Or is it private?
Oh yeah,
Is it confidential?
Yes, it is. It is. Nobody discusses their strategies on the air.
But it's a good strategy.
Yes, we have strategies in place.
Okay.
Yes.
A few days ago, and I'm going to end with this because of your Christian background.
Yes.
I was addressing my colleagues who are in marriages, 13 wonderful couples. Oh my God, what a day it was. And what came out is this embracing of God. And they asked so many questions, about God in relation, to the marriage. If we walk out right now from the studio and you meet Jesus outside, and very quickly, what quick discussion would you have with Jesus?
I think it would be one of gratitude. Yes. And I think I'll say, Lord, look at my heart. Is my conduct and everything that I have done in line with your will? That would be the kind of conversation I would have. Yeah. But I think you already know the answer anyway. Yeah.
I know.
You will have the answer.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about, couples and everything else. I mean, it's marriage is a good institution, and from my own limited experience, is that maybe this can be a subject of another day, lengthy discussion. But the point that is there is that as long as you ensure that there are 3 parties in the union, that union will thrive. That is the husband, the wife, and God. As the 3rd party, then you have a marriage on a strong footing.
I tried twice and I learned something, which I never knew, that it's the only school that you don't graduate.
No, you don't. You try every day.
You just go on.
You go on. Yes, I've tried. I'm on my 2nd. And so far the 2nd, I learned a lot. I learned a lot. We always learn. I mean, it's the only institution where you don't go to train for. Okay. But I do believe that once you submit yourself and put God at the center of it all, and also recognizing your limitations. There are things we can do, and there are things that God has to do. The worst mistake is to try and exceed your boundaries and to do God's work in a marriage.
I thought being a son of a reverend, I would do better.
Those are challenges of life. We beat ourselves, we pick up ourselves and then move on, and only hope and pray that we do better next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity.
Thank you, Ambassador, for the opportunity as well.
Wow. This has been Simply Frank. We've been discussing issues pertaining to the movement for national renewal. They've hit 1 million. And I'm told they're not stopping there. They are going on, and registration is still open. I thank the State Council, John Sangwa, who is the leader of the movement. Oh, by the way, I forgot. What? I see, Dolika is with you most of the time. What does this say? Is she representing women or what? Very, very, very clear.
Yeah. we are all members of the movement.
Yeah.
Okay. And let me also add that I salute her.
I do too.
I salute her because she's a brave woman.
Yeah.
Okay. Not many women can actually step forward and enter the political arena. For that, I salute her, and I'm very grateful that we are working together. And look at it, Ambassador. She doesn't need to do this.
Yeah.
Like many other people should simply say, hey, I'm going to have my comfortable life. That's it.
Yeah.
But she has a heart for Zambia.
Yeah.
And I would ask for many other men and women that are comfortable to be able to come forward, join the political process, and be able to transform this country, if not for themselves, but at least for our children.
Yeah. My final word, before I close, my final phrase, which I love, very much: do your very best, and God will do the rest. This has been Simply Frank. I featured John Sangwa, the leader of MNR movement. I'm Frank. Good night.